Welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Basleen. Today I wanted to talk about something that's deeply personal and transformative, which is learning how to set boundaries, stop feeling guilty, and start living a life that's truly aligned with who you are. This is a must if you want to honestly accomplish anything in life. And let me share something here with you. For a very long time, I was a constant people pleaser. I thought that saying yes to everyone, being there for everyone, and sacrificing my own needs made me a better person. But in reality, it left me feeling drained, resentful, and disconnected from myself. Like, can you relate to that? Because if you do, then keep watching this because this video is for you. So, let's start off by diving into the root of guilt. Why do you feel guilty when you say no? Why does it feel so uncomfortable to put yourself first? Well, number one thing, let's acknowledge that, is that you've just been conditioned to place your value and worth on what other people think of you. You have tied your sense of self to how much you can give, how often you can say yes, and how well you keep everybody else happy. And when you break that pattern, even for a moment, guilt ends up creeping in because you end up being worried. You end up being worried and thinking, what if they don't like me anymore? What if they think I'm selfish? What if they stop including me in things? But here's the truth, you don't actually feel guilty. You're actually worried about how other people are going to react to you setting these boundaries. I want to take a moment to share my story. For years, I'd bend over backwards for everybody, friends, family, colleagues, you named it. I wanted to be the person that everybody could rely on. I would constantly rearrange my own plans, push aside my feelings, and sacrifice my time just to make sure that other people would be happy. If someone needed a ride at the last minute and I had to go way out of my way, I'd say yes. If a colleague needed help with their project, even though I was drowning in my own work, I would drop everything and say yes. And not gonna lie, on the surface, it felt good. I felt needed, appreciated, and even validated. But beneath that surface, I was exhausted. I wasn't sleeping well. I was stressed all the time. And I just feel like I had completely lost myself in other people. I had no boundaries, no space to breathe, and no time to even think about what I actually wanted or needed. And for me, a breaking point came on a day that should have been one of the happiest days of my life. I had reached such a major milestone in my career, which was a moment that I'd worked so hard for. But instead of celebrating, I was too busy worrying about what other people needed from me. I was replying to emails, I was saying yes to more favors, and I was just putting everyone's needs ahead of my own. And that's when it really just like hit me. I had built my life around making other people happy, and in the process, I just completely neglected my own happiness. And I just knew that I couldn't keep living like that. Something had to change for me. And I really had to learn from, my own worth and place my own worth on something more meaningful than sacrificing myself for others. I had to figure out who I was outside of what I could give myself to others. And that journey wasn't the easiest for me, but it's been one of the most freeing things I've done. And it's definitely not over for me yet. So let's talk about how you can stop feeling guilty and start standing in your own power. To begin, I think it's so important that you understand the source of your guilt. And what you're feeling isn't actually guilt, it's fear. And it's a fear of rejection, the fear of disappointing others, and the fear that other people might actually think less of you. And this fear comes from a lifetime of trying to fit into other people's expectations and being conditioned to believe that your worth is tied to their approval when it isn't. And think about it, right? Like, every time you hesitate to say no or feel uneasy about putting yourself first, it's because you're worried about how it'll be perceived. Will they think that you're unkind? Will they stop valuing your contributions? Will they push you away? These thoughts create a powerful emotional response that essentially disguises itself as guilt. And once you can name it for what it truly is, you've already taken the first step toward reclaiming your power. Recognizing that this guilt is actually fear is what allows you to confront it head on. It's honestly all about understanding that you're not a bad person for setting boundaries. You are not selfish for prioritizing yourself. You are simply breaking free from an unhealthy pattern that has kept you stuck. This realization is empowering because it shifts that focus from trying to change how others might feel about you to strengthening how you feel about yourself, because that is what it's all about. It's a pivotal moment where you decide that your inner peace matters more than external validation. So, reframing your value is a key step in this journey. For so long, you may have believed that your worth comes from how much you do for others, or how often you say yes, or how selflessly you give, and how much you sacrifice. But the truth is, your value isn't tied to how much you can please others. It's time to start recognizing the qualities that make you inherently valuable. You are kind. You are caring. You are thoughtful. These are traits that are a part of who you are, and they don't just vanish because you say no or because you set a boundary. If anything, these qualities shine even brighter when you prioritize your well being. When you actually take care of yourself, you're able to give from a place of abundance rather than a place of exhaustion. And saying no doesn't make you less compassionate, it makes you more intentional. Setting a boundary doesn't make you more selfish. It allows you to show up as the best version of yourself. It's not about shutting others out, it's about creating a space for yourself to thrive so that you can bring your full energy and authenticity to everything you do. Reframing your value in this way is not just freeing, it's transformative. It's a reminder that you don't need to earn your worth by overextending yourself because, my friend, my dear, dear friend, you're enough. It's also important to accept that people may react negatively when you set boundaries. This can be one of the hardest parts of this process because it is so natural to want to avoid conflict, especially if you're a people pleaser or just wanting to avoid disappointing others. When someone reacts negatively, it's so easy to feel like you've done something wrong or that you failed in some way, but that isn't true. Their reaction isn't a reflection of your worth or the validity of your boundaries. It's simply a sign that they need time to adjust to this new dynamic. Like, think of it this way. When you change how you interact with others, it disrupts the unspoken rules of or patterns that they've essentially become accustomed to. And that disruption can feel really, really uncomfortable for them. But that doesn't mean your decision to set a boundary is wrong. In fact, it's often a necessary part of fostering healthier relationships, both with others and with yourself. Accepting this reality doesn't make the discomfort go away completely, but it does help soften its impact. Instead of internalizing their reactions as a personal failure, you can see them for what they are, aka growing pains. Great way to describe that. And by embracing this truth, you give yourself permission to move forward with confidence, knowing that your boundaries are an act of self-respect and self-care. Over time, many people will come to respect, I promise you, and even appreciate the clarity and balance and boundaries that you bring to your relationships. And for those who don't, that's okay. Like, you're not responsible for how others people feel about your boundaries. You are responsible for honoring yourself. And when it comes to setting boundaries, clear communication is absolutely essential. The way that you essentially express your needs can make a huge difference in essentially how they're received. And one of the most effective tools for this is using I statements. By reframing or framing, I should say, your needs in terms of your own experience, aka using the I, you avoid sounding accusatory or confrontational. So, for example, instead of saying, you always expect too much from you can say, I need some time to recharge, so I won't be able to help this time. So this helps to shift the focus to your needs and feelings, making it easier for the other person to actually understand your perspective without becoming defensive. Timing is also another critical factor. So you want to set boundaries. If you set boundaries, during moments of tension or conflict, it can really backfire because emotions are running really, really high. So instead, you want to choose a calm, neutral moment when both of you and the other person are in a better place to have a productive conversation. So, for example, instead of bringing up, your boundary in the middle of a stressful event, you might want to wait for a quiet evening or a time when you can both sit down and talk without distractions. This allows the conversation to unfold in a way that feels respectful and intentional. And when you communicate your boundaries, it's also helpful to explain their value, not just for you, but for everybody involved, right? So tell the other person how it's valuable to them because people are more receptive when they understand how a boundary can benefit the relationship as a whole. So, for instance, you might say, when I take care of myself, I can show up better for you. This framing helps other people see that your boundaries are not about shutting them out or being selfish, but about creating a dynamic that allows you to give your best. Clear communication is a skill, okay? And like any skill, it takes practice. You might not get it right every time, and that's okay. What matters is your intention and your willingness to honor yourself. And what you're going to see is that over time, as you start to become more confident in expressing your needs, you'll find that people are going to start to begin to respect your boundaries more naturally. And even if they don't, you'll have the clarity and strength to stand firm and honestly let those people go, knowing that your boundaries are an act of self-respect and an essential part of building healthy, balanced relationships. And the people that love you the most in your life are going to respect them. So let's be real here for a second. This is not going to be easy. You're going to make mistakes. There will be times when you feel terrible about enforcing your boundaries, and you might even question if this is actually going to be worth it. But here's the magic. With practice, you're going to see that people are going to respect you more when you set boundaries. Or in some cases, you might realize that they don't care as much about you as you feared they would, and you let those people go, okay? It gets easier, you grow stronger, and most importantly, you gain that freedom. So let me ask you this. What is one boundary that you can set today? I would encourage you to start with something small. It could be saying no to a social event that you really don't want to attend, or maybe it's carving out an hour just for yourself. Whatever it is, take that first step. Okay? Separate yourself from the expectations of others because it's not selfish, it is essential. It's the only way to create space for your dreams, for your growth, and most importantly, your joy. This is the life you deserve to live. So if you found this message helpful, I would love for you to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more content on living your most empowered life and optimizing your brain. And if you're ready to take the next step in supporting your brain health and truly living a life that is aligned with your true potential, I invite you, book a complimentary 30-minute breakthrough session with me. Together, we will uncover the strategies that you need in your life to thrive and create the clarity to move forward with confidence. You can click the link in the description to schedule your session today. And if you have a story or tip about setting boundaries, please share them in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.